Hi, my name is Gabby, and this is my story slam for English 12. I was always a very impulsive child. From a young age, I knew what I want, I'd go and I'd get it, and I would never hesitate when someone would tell me not to. I had a mind of my own, and I thought that my word was law. Of course, with age and maturity, that trait did go away, but it definitely took lesson after moral after lesson to get there. It was a Friday morning at my elementary school, North Poplar Elementary, and I was in the first grade. My first grade class was preparing to go on a field trip to the Abbotsford Art Center. At the art center, we'd use their little gym, and that is where we would rehearse our little dance for our school's mini production of Alice in Wonderland. Because it was a Friday morning, both the teachers and the students kind of made a mutual agreement that no focusing or schoolwork would get done, so we kind of all just decided we'd quiet read until the bell, and then we'd go on our field trip. So little me was sitting at my desk, jittery, a little bit excited. I really wasn't able to sit still, and I didn't want to focus. But I was prompted to go to our big library wall and choose out a book that would keep my interest for the next 2.5 hours. So I'm looking up at the wall, and nothing is really standing out to me until I see this book. It's a very thick book, but it's got a shiny silver cover, and I've never seen anything like it. So I pick up the book, I look down, I open it up to a random page, and both pages are blurry, and I'm very confused. I've never seen a book like that before. So I'm flipping and I'm flipping, trying to make sense of what is in front of my eyes, and then, as I'm flipping, something is starting to move, and things are becoming clearer. It's a flip motion picture book, and a cheetah is running across the savannah in front of me. Little me had never seen a flip motion picture book before. I was enthralled. It totally kept my interest, and there I sat at my desk, loving and loving this book for the next 2.5 hours. But then quiet reading time ended, and I didn't want to put down the book. I started thinking to myself, how could I keep this book in my possession and never lose it? I loved it that much. And then I had a thought. I could steal it. I knew that stealing was wrong, but I had never really known what it could do. I had never really played out the game of stealing before. So I started to scheme. How could I change this book so that my teacher wouldn't be able to tell it had originally belonged to her? And then I have an idea. I could change the cover. I could disguise the book. So that's exactly what I did. I grabbed purple construction paper, a purple Sharpie, purple glitter, purple scissors, and purple glue. Everything purple because your favorite color in the first grade is essentially your personality, and I slammed it down on my desk. I cut out a small little rectangle. When comparing it to the actual cover of the book, it hardly covered it. You could literally still see the title, but I was committed, and I wrote on the piece of paper in loopy letters, Gabby's book. I put glitter around the edges, and I kind of sat there comparing the piece of paper to the cover. And then I began to feel a little bit guilty. I started thinking that maybe I was doing something wrong. I had really never done anything like this before, but I knew that there was no turning back, and I loved the book so much, so I glued it on, kept that thing close to my chest, and headed towards the Abbotsford Art Center. When we got there, all the kids were kind of sitting in circles in the gym. The parent-teacher volunteers were like setting up those white kind of plasticky tables and putting long black tablecloths atop of them so that we could kind of hide all the backpacks underneath and keep everything nice and organized before we'd start dancing. It was our lunch break, and as everyone was kind of eating their lunches, my mind was in a different place. I did not want to focus. I just really wanted to read my book. So I'm looking around, and then I see the tables, and it seems like the perfect place to hide. So I crawl myself underneath the table, and I open my book. And everything is going according to plan until a girl from my class crawls under the table as well. And she's super interested in my book. She keeps asking to touch it and hold it and feel it, and she loves the way that it looks, and she loves cheetahs too. but I don't want to give her my book. I'm starting to get really irritated and she's starting to grab it and I'm starting to pull and grab and pull and grab and pull until she gets mad, stomps up on her feet and says, "I'm gonna go tell our teacher, Mrs. Woods, about your book." So she gets up, she runs to my teacher, and I watch in horror as my teacher looks at me and walks over. You know what she had said? That little girl in my class had said, "I love Gabby's book so much, but she won't tell me where she got it from. Can you help me?" I spent the rest of that day perched up in the corner of the gym on the cold floor while all of my friends drank juice boxes and ate packaged cookies. My teacher, Mrs. Woods, had pulled me aside to talk to me that afternoon. She had told me that what I'd done was wrong, and I already knew that, but she had added on that I had really hurt her feelings. I knew that stealing was wrong, my mom had told me, but I had never seen how it could play out and harm someone else. I know that there would be a personal consequence, that I'd get in trouble or I'd be framed as bad, but I didn't know that there would be an impact on the victim. I felt terribly guilty that day. I could hardly look my teacher in the eye, and I spent the rest of the afternoon trying not to cry. You know, there would be more quiet reading mornings in my class, and I would always sit in my desk and be quiet and try to focus. I would avoid that specific book, and I would avoid that specific wall in the library. And you know, I never really did read another flip motion picture book again.